Hey guys, it's Nicole, and today I have another layout featuring one of the free sketches from the Create magazine put out by Scrapbook Generation. So because these are free sketches, it's okay to have them out on my desk. I can talk about measurements in the comments and stuff. I can post links for where you can download these. I mentioned in a previous video that the magazines are still available on their website, so you can download them, and they are stuffed full of so much inspiration. I still go back and read them every once in a while. So for this one, I believe this is the sketch from April 2014. There's a single page, a double page, a card, and a tag. And for today's video, I am following along with the single page sketch, and I am going to stick pretty close to the example, like the actual sketch that they had provided. I went ahead and inked the edges of my photos as well as this vellum mat that I made, and for whatever reason I'm on a very heavy vellum kick lately. For whatever reason, when I feel like I need to mat my photos and I don't want to mat them in white, vellum is sort of my plan B. It's what I like, so I tend to stick with things that I like. So a lot of times I will just have vellum sitting out on my desk. And then as far as papers, I decided to just go with white textured cardstock for my background, and then I believe this paper line is Rough and Tumble or something like that, and I think it's Cartabella. Really, really nice. It's that thick textured cardstock that they used to do their collections on. And initially, when you look at the collection, it's geared towards boys. But when I was going through my stash and kind of trying to figure out what papers I wanted to use, I kept going back to this one and another boy line from Echo Park. And it was mostly for the transportation icons and elements that were within the collection. And I was leaning that way mostly based on my photos. I have three photos that I had taken, I want to say on my cell phone, and this was a couple months after we had moved into our house, and I was still slowly going through and unpacking various boxes, just stuff that we didn't need right away, mostly my scrapbook room and a couple other areas. So typically, months after we've moved into the house, late summer, obviously because my kids are still naked, I would have a couple boxes a week, and the kids had kind of gotten into the habit that they knew if mom was throwing boxes from the upstairs over the landing to downstairs that they were allowed to use the boxes. And this particular day, for whatever reason, my son had decided that he was going to let his sister play with him without fighting, and she just very happily, climbed into the box with him, brought her little bag of chips with her. He was somewhat sharing I think I had given him my cell phone or something, and I put Netflix on it. I'm not even sure why, probably just to keep him quiet so I could get a couple boxes unpacked. And they had lined them up and told me that they were a train or a bus or this and that. And so when I had set aside the photos and matched them up with the sketch, and then, the next step was to try and find papers, I kept finding myself remembering, that they had talked about making a train or making a car and stuff out of these boxes. So when I kept coming across these boy lines and I kept seeing the trains and the trucks and the helicopters, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go with it. Yes, my daughter's in the photos, but to me, kid lines are pretty generic in the sense that whether you have boys or girls, it can kind of go either way. Whereas I think a lot of girl lines, they're just so heavily feminine that it's not necessarily true, to be able to go both ways with a girl line. So I do not have a problem sort of taking a collection that is maybe geared specifically towards little boys and using it for something like this. I don't think that it has to be him playing with his trucks or anything like that. I tend to go based off of how something makes me feel. I've mentioned it before with like their layout kits. When I get them and I kind of see the collections that they've picked, I kind of go based on if it's heavily themed, I'll go with something that matches that. Otherwise, I tend to go with what the paper makes me feel. So when I'm at home and I'm trying to match up my pictures, I kind of do, I guess, a reverse. And so here at this point, I've got my photos matted. I think the sketch had said that the photos were like 2.5 by 3, or they were tiny. So I ended up doing 3x4s because it was just easier to put two 3x4s on a 4x6 and send them out to print. And then I think I followed the measurements that they suggested on the sketch as far as this block of paper. And then I didn't measure my banners. I just cut a bunch of different patterns, just various widths, inked everything in brown, and then I fussy cut out one of these strips that was on like an icon stripe pattern, and it was just these little tickets, so I just kind of fussy cut them. And then when I was pulling products to go ahead and do this layout, I will admit that I buy a lot of stamps and I buy a lot of die cuts, and I try to limit myself to stuff that I know I can make a card with, but I can also incorporate with my layouts. So lately I've been sort of at least making myself pull stuff out. Now whether or not I'm going to use it on a layout kind of happens in this part of the process. And so for this one, I decided to take these puffy hearts from Lawn Fawn, and I'm going to use them as sort of my main embellishment. That's like the sketch shows, I think they use stars as well, stars and little different things to kind of represent like stickers and stuff. And then I have these square dies. So they're square dies that have like a stitched line, and then the inside of the square is a scallop border, and they're from Gina Marie Designs, and I'm almost positive I bought them from Cat Scrappiness. I bought them to try, and I bought some stitched circles, which I have not used yet, mostly because of the price point. I'm sure you guys know how expensive metal dies can get, and especially like the super popular ones. Some of them are hard to find, some of them are just really expensive, and I already try to make sure that when I'm buying something like that, that I can use it for cards and layouts, so that I'm kind of getting a better bang for my buck that way. But I had kept seeing these dies, the Gina Marie ones, and they were a much lower price point, and I liked that there was a lot of basic shapes. Like these I thought were really interesting. I felt like you could use them to make shaker cards, or you could use them in different elements on scrapbook layouts. So originally when I was looking at the sketches, I wanted to find like a moving box die cut from like the Silhouette store and do like a die cut thing on my Cameo. When it came time to do the actual layout, I was like, you know what, I really don't want to mess with that. What else can I kind of do? And so I decided to cut these on one of the pattern papers in this collection was like a speckled craft looking pattern. So I decided to cut the frames with that, and these are going to kind of mimic the boxes in my photos and sort of almost make my own embellishment support the theme of my photos, I guess, if that makes any sense. So I'm just going to make clusters out of these stars that I've cut from the pattern papers. I cut a bunch from vellum, just to kind of have some more subtle looking ones, and then some of the pieces I'm going to have flat to the page, and some I like to have just a little bit of like foam tape, just to kind of make it a little bit more interesting, and just, you know, not make it look so flat sometimes. And this is typically the point when I'm following a sketch where I start deviating and doing my own thing, and it's a habit. Sometimes I start out doing a sketch and I'm telling myself that I love everything about it, everything that I have is going to work, and I want to follow it exactly how they have it. And then something happens and I just kind of forget. I start piling stuff on top of the sketch. It kind of starts getting buried. And sometimes it works out, and then sometimes I kind of kick myself later when I'm trying to figure out, well, where's a good place for the title? Where's a good place for journaling? And those things are already figured out for you on the sketch. So sometimes I make it work, and sometimes I'm, frantically digging on my desk thinking, oh my God, where did it go? But this one, I did stick pretty heavily to the sketch. I think by the time I had glued down my largest frame in like that navy blue star, um, I think originally I had intended to have it be farther to the left so that my title and my journaling would be where it's represented in the sketch, but I had already glued it down. That glue was dry. There was no way I was going to be able to get that frame up without ruining all those banners and stuff. So I'm just going to kind of figure out where I can fit my title, and then because I'm doing journaling strips, I know that I can fit those in pretty much anywhere within the layout. I think if I had done my journaling on like a die cut or a cut apart or something, it would have been a little harder to try to figure out where I was going to put it. But again, I cannot say enough good things about journaling strips because you can fit those suckers almost anywhere. And I will even split up parts of my journaling. I'll have, one or two sentences like in the upper left, a couple in the middle, a couple on the bottom. Doesn't bother me. And then for my title, I pulled out a couple things of thickers, and both sets are kind of to the point where it's not, this is what I want to spell. It's what letters are left and what can I make out of those letters. So originally I kind of wanted more of my title to be in those aqua ones, but I did not have enough letters. I want to say I was completely out of certain letters, so it wasn't going to work. There was no way I was going to be able to spell imagination, because I think I wanted to have a box full of in the black and then imagination in the blue. But between the combination of the black letters and the aqua letters, that was not going to happen. So I just mixed it up. I ended up doing surgery on the T. I think I took an F and I cut off the curve, swung it around, and made it the other arm of the T. And nobody will ever know. And then, of course, we all know chipboard thickers do not stick for anything, so I just pulled out some glossy accents. It was handy, and I'm using that to glue them on. And so pretty sure those will be there forever because I didn't get regular glue. And then at this point, I'm pretty sure I had taken a picture of my title and I had sent it to my friend asking if she could tell that I had done surgery on that letter, if it looked okay. And then I'm going to go and see if there's any more stars that I want to add. I kind of felt like I needed to have something up in that sort of top right area. And I'm just going to end up going with a couple stars and tuck them behind the photo on the right. And typical for most pages that I do, I pulled so much stuff and I barely used anything. Like most of this layout is pattern paper, whether it's strips or banners, mat, stars I had cut, frames I had cut, but off to the side I had the stickers that matched the line. I think I had pulled out some random brads because I thought, oh, maybe I'll add like a bunch of circles and stuff. Didn't end up using it. I sort of get distracted from my own plan and just kind of go with it. So here you can see I printed my journaling, cut it into strips, and then I'm going to ink the edges of these too. Lately I've noticed that if I have the time, I'm inking the edges of my papers. If I don't, I'm letting it go and just getting the page done. But even if I don't ink the edge of my papers, I still like to ink the edge of my journaling. I feel like it just looks unfinished if I don't, and that's just a personal preference. I've seen other people's pages where they put their journaling strips on their page, there's no inking, and they look good, like it fits their style. For me, I feel like I just need them to stand out a little bit more. And then I was not in the mood to deal with my glue pen or getting one of my glue bottles to sort of unclog. So I went the lazy route and I grabbed those little tiny like bling size glue dots and figured out that those work perfect for journaling strips. You literally just lay your journaling strip on the roll of glue dots, pull the whole thing up, and it's like a ready-made sticker without having to mess with like a Xyron machine. Or not a Xyron. Is it a Xyron? The sticker maker thing? I don't know. It's way too late to be doing this. Um, but yeah. So after I did the journaling, I felt like I just wanted something, and I kept having like the the idea of something circular going. Um, I didn't want to mess with digging through enamel dots and trying to match colors, so I grabbed clear Nuvo drops. I'm addicted to these things. They just look so pretty when they dry. Like, they're super clear. They don't have that weird cloudy look that glossy accents will sometimes give you. And so I just scattered them from the lower right to the upper left, and that was pretty much it. And then earlier I had stamped my date, so I remembered to do that. So there is the completed layout, and I will probably be making a playlist and putting any of the layouts that I do featuring the free create sketches into that playlist. So I will catch you guys next time.